So, Warren, I want to quickly go back and we're going to talk about your career, obviously. There is a lot to talk about. You had a lot of adventure in your career, let's put it that way, in South Africa. So I want to go back to, okay, we understand that you went on a tear at one stage. You were undefeated for a very long time in your career, up until the point where you fought. I think it was the first time for the SA title against Sipho Taliwe.
Junior lightweight title, yeah, South African junior lightweight title, Sipho Taliwe, yeah.
Yeah, what do you remember of that day?
I remember that he hit like a truck, that's for sure. No, you know what? I specifically fighting Taliwe, I think I made the mistake. I do believe that I was a more talented boxer and I should have just boxed though. I made the mistake of getting into a fight which was his sort of fight, and he was just way stronger than me and he just outpowered me. Made the mistake of trying to stand toe-to-toe with a big banger instead of being clever enough to box him. And yeah, but things worked the way things worked out. Hit me and I folded like timber. First time in my career. I can at least I can say he never ever knocked me out. I was never ever knocked out. I was stopped, but I was never ever cold.
You had to deal with injuries in your career as well. I know that you had an ankle brace on for a very long time.
Yes. I broke my ankle. I broke my ankle. I broke my lateral malleolus when I fought Keith and Causey. I was wearing a low cut pair of boots, which I thought looked really cool, but obviously in terms of protecting your ankle, it didn't really do the job. And I went over and over on the ankle, lost balance, went over the ankle and broke the ankle in the first round.
Throughout your career, did you ever have confidence in particularly putting a lot of weight on that foot, the ankle that you broke? I mean, or was it a career hindrance for you?
No, actually not. So to be honest, I think I was quite lucky in the sense that I went to a good orthoped. I think I went for my first checkup 2 weeks after the operation. And the guy's like, okay, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to start cycling with your moon boots on. And I think as a result, obviously technology and everything has sped up nowadays. And I think years ago, they would keep guys off the ankle for a longer period of time. And obviously there's less blood flow, etc. The faster we can get moving again, those tendons don't shorten up, those ligaments don't shorten up. And you obviously maintain as much mobility as you possibly can. It took some time. I think it was about 8 or 9 months that I wasn't able to do anything. But I think it was about a year later I had my first fight. Which is unheard of in this day and age.
How would you describe your fighting style? You've had a lot of different trainers that you've worked with, but obviously you hone your own sort of style. How would you describe that?
I think I don't know. I'd probably say that I'm more of a pressure fighter. Come forward, I like to box more on the front foot. I can box on the back foot if need be, but I prefer to come forward and put the pressure on. I've always been a fit fighter, so I think I've always used that to my advantage. Come forward and just put them in a pressure cooker at the end of the day.
I just mentioned in the question before that you've had some excellent trainers. I mean, look at the cream of the crop at the time in South Africa. Going through all your trainers now, could you name them for everyone that maybe is just a youngster that's just hasn't watched your career?
Yes. So I started out my career with Nick Durant. Then I ended up going to Manny Fernandes, and then I finished my career with Colin Nathan. For me personally, it would work best for me. Everybody's different, real individuals, but I had my best years of boxing with Colin. I think being good mates with Colin, and we saw eye to eye, and it worked best for me. I enjoyed my boxing most with Colin, and obviously Colin's still a mate of mine up until today. Which obviously, Nick has passed. I've still got respect for Manny Fernandes, but he's not a mate of mine as such.
Yeah, speaking about the last part, most certainly with Collins, where you won your SA title, you had defeated Lunga Jikani that night. That must have been probably one of the most proudest moments of your career, was getting that title.
Yeah, no, it was definitely satisfying, because I'd worked hard in my career. I mean, like the first fight against Taliwe when I fought for the SA title the first time round, and I was pretty confident that I could beat him. Yeah, I always thought I was a better boxer than him. And I don't know, I got in there and I don't know, somehow things got away from me, and I'll end up falling into his fight plan and trying to fight with him. And then my next title shot against Keith Nkosi for the ABU Africa title. And that also, broke my ankle in the first round. So, yeah, I think didn't work for my favor. But you know what, I persevered. And if there's any piece of advice that I could give to any young fighter out there, perseverance. Just keep at it. Eventually, it's going to pay off. Like I think, I think that goes for any walk in life, for that matter. You know, just persevere, and eventually you're going to reap the rewards.
I was going through a video the other day. It was an old video of yourself and DJ Krill. You guys are training in the gym, and I just remember that must have been some of the fittest times that I've personally seen in boxing and training. I mean, it was like a 6 minutes straight of this like cardio, like intensive cardio. That's got to be the life, eh? Like as a boxer, you can't just be talented. You got to be able to work.
No, 100%. You know, I'd break it down to three things. It's discipline, dedication, and then obviously the God-given talent that you're given in the first place. But yeah, you can't rely on one or the other. You need to have all three factors.
I'd be silly not to mention this. The 2 fights against Grant the Fireball. I think that was some of the best building up on the local scene that we've seen in a while. 1-1. You won one, he won one.
Yes,
but it
correct.
first started with you losing the first fight was you losing your SA title, and you know the emotions must have been going through your head. Talk us through it.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think in the first fight, I think I also undermined Grant. I thought that I would beat him a lot easier. I thought it would be not an easy fight. I mean, I trained hard for us, prepared, but it wasn't. I didn't expect it to be as tough as it was. And then, I really do think that I undermined him slightly. And then, in the second fight, I think I knew what I had coming. I was like, no ways, this is not going to happen. I'm not losing my title, and I ended up beating Grant, and I won the SA title back alongside the WA Pan Africa title. So that was, if there's any insult to injury for Grant, that was it.
But as far as my memory serves, between that was a fight against Jason Peterson. I think was between the two fights. That was also another crazy one because Jason was also quite tough.
So Jason, I'll be honest with you, Jason was a fight that I expected to be a really tough fight. I was like, whoa, okay. Because I was in Manny Fernandez's gym with Jason. And if there's one act that I know that can crack for a lightweight, junior welterweight, that could crack, it was Jason. And I thought, whoa. So he caught me one shot in the fight. I was like, whoa, okay, this mofo can't crack me like that again, because there's a good chance that he could hurt me. And then, I think the first 2 rounds I was really cautious. And then from there, it actually ended up being an easy fight. For a fight that I expected to be a really hard fight, it ended up being a really easy fight.
All right, now, this is the one that I really like the most because I believe he's the best fighter in the world in this weight, in your old weight division, was Josh Taylor. And coming up against him, I don't think you expected him to be as good as he was. I know that you're preparing for a fight like any other fights, I guess. But when you got in the ring with him, did you feel like, shit, this guy's like world level?
No, listen, he's shit hot. That's the only way to explain it. Josh Taylor, super talented fighter. You know what? You know, psychologically, you're never gonna get into a fight where you think to yourself there's a chance of losing, because then you've lost the fight already. I'm getting in there. If I'm getting in there and I'm gonna fight someone, I'm stepping into the ring with them, I'm getting in to win. I'm not gonna go there to lose. Otherwise, what's the point in taking the fight in the first place? And listen, he just I got outgunned. The first couple of rounds were pretty even, and then they started cracking me a few shots. And if I had to compare between him and fighting Sipho Taliwe hit like a truck, and he was physically stronger. Josh Taylor hit really hard, but the difference is his punches were pinpoint accurate. So where he wanted to place those punches landed. And I'm just, but a hell of a nice guy. I mean, every now and again I still chat to Josh. We message each other. He's a hell of a nice guy, a monster in the ring, but a hell of a gentleman outside the ring. And I think that's the way we want to be. You know, if we could be ambassadors for the sport, that's the way a person wants to be. So that we need to be an example, someone for people to look up to. And I think that's the only way to promote boxing worldwide.
I remember, I think he was 8-0 at the time, and there wasn't a lot of information about him. And, you know, everyone is like, well, everyone in the gym at least was like, okay, well, we don't really know much about him. Do you ever watch the fight back now and actually realize how well you did compared to some of the other opponents that he's come up against?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, if there's anything that I could, any fight that I could give myself credit for, saying that I've been in the ring, that I've shared the ring with the best in the world, it would be fighting against Josh Taylor. Yeah, like you said, looking back now, I was like, hey, well, you know what? I actually didn't Colin a couple of times after a few of his fights when he beat O'Hara Davies. Who else? Who else has he beaten recently? That Ivan Barenchek. And Colin's like, it's like, yeah, will often message me and it's like, hey, so you didn't do too bad, eh? You can be proud of yourself. I'm like, no, cool, thank you very much. We had it was a great time away, great camp, and yeah, you know, I've been blessed to earn a living doing what I love.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you as well. Is how enjoying is a boxing career? Is it always, you know, hard going? Did you enjoy your career? Like, as being in the moments when you were there, do you miss it now? I mean, yeah.
I love my career. There's nothing in the world that I would exchange it for. You know, I think in the earlier days when you mentioned when I was undefeated and whatnot, I think you land up putting pressure on yourself. I think the best thing that could have happened was when I took the first loss against Taliwe. And it takes that pressure off of you because you're like, hey, well, you know what? I'm human. I get to lose. It's like only aches like Floyd Mayweather that don't lose. And, you know, it takes the pressure off. And I think from then on, I started to enjoy my boxing more. And, yeah, it's got to be a lifestyle. You've got to be at it each and every day. And if that's what you enjoy, then that's what you should do. You know what? If it's too tough for you and the discipline and dedication is too much, then you know what? Then choose another avenue in life. There's so much discipline and dedication that goes into it. Any sport for that matter, but specifically boxing. I mean, especially considering that we get in there to hurt each other. We get in there to win, and winning means hurting another person. So, you know what? Tough sport, but best sport in the world. Some of the best guys, like I was just chatting about Josh Taylor. Fantastic sportsman and a great fighter, but a great guy as well. And most boxers, I mean, you know, it's obviously there are the few around that tarnish the name of the sport for everyone. I think that goes for any sport for that matter. There are those few that tarnish the name of the sport. But in general, you come across most boxers, most guys, specifically the talented champions, and generally the guys are humble, down-to-earth guys.
You obviously follow, well, I'm assuming now that you follow the current boxing scene. I mean, how much do you enjoy, you know, sitting on your couch, not taking the punches?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. At times it's like, yes, yeah, I would love to get back in there. Every now and again you look at it, but obviously the wise decision, obviously none of us beat Father Time, and we got to know when to say enough's enough, you know. And I think I was smart enough to do that at the right time. That there's life after boxing, and yeah, but you know, there are times you sit there and you're like, hey, listen, you're like, you know, think about those days when you were in there doing that, and obviously you miss it. But you know what? Please God, I'll open my gym sometime soon, and then you know it's everything that I've learned over the years. I can pass the torch and relay the knowledge stuff that I've learned over the years. It's time to relay that knowledge to my fighters.
Well, Hekki Butler just said there in the comment section that he learns a lot from you and the amateurs. You taught him a lot. I mean that's one of the greatest fighters Africa's ever produced.
If that's a feather, I mean, if there's any feather in a person's cap, that would be it. So thanks, Hacks. Appreciate it. It's a very, very nice compliment to hear that coming from you.
You got to share a lot of time in the gym as amateurs and then as a pro at the end of your career with Hekki Butler. I mean, speak about his career. I mean, he obviously happened right in front of your eyes.
Listen, the best thing, I mean, a talented fighter of note, but such a humble, down-to-earth gentleman. If there's any ambassador for the sport, Hekki's the man. Hekki's the man, a humble, down to earth. I mean, I don't think there's not many fighters in Africa that have achieved what Hekki's achieved. So big ups to him.
Warren, after your career had concluded, not too long ago, you had actually taken a guy in the corner, which I got shocked by. Julian Cook all of a sudden appeared with Warren Joubert in his corner, and I was like, wow, okay, so Warren's going the trainer route now. How nervous were you as a trainer?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it was pretty nerve-wracking. It's not quite the same as getting in and having a fight. But yeah, I think that was something that I've obviously, after having 37 professional fights, it's something that you become more accustomed to. Yeah, stepping there for your first time, it's like anything in life. I mean, the more we do it, the easier it becomes, you know. So yeah, the first time stepping there, Julian approached me and he said, listen, I've had a fallout with my trainer. So I said, well, listen, I don't have my own premises yet. I'm working out of a gym. It's not really a boxing gym. It's more of like a fitness-based gym. Doing, you know, as basically a personal trainer, training private clients. And I said, but listen, we can make a plan. We can do it. I actually ended up doing quite a bit of sparring with Julian myself, because when he first came to me, he was really unfit. So I was like, okay, well, listen, I'm not taking you to the gym to spar with professionals being this unfit. Let me spar with you a bit first, and we'll get you a little fit. And then from there, I actually got in touch with Carl, and I said, listen, would you mind if I brought Julian around for some sparring? And he's like, no, sure, no problem. And then, yeah, we came and sparred with a few of the guys. Rourke was kind enough to help us out with sparring. Yeah, a couple of the guys in the gym decided to get in and give Julian some tough rounds. And yeah, it was flipping one hell of an experience. Very nice to get back in there. So yeah, I mean, prior to the lockdown, I was actually looking for my own premises, and thank God, I mean, you know, God works in mysterious ways that I hadn't found it. But you know, please God, after the lockdowns lifted, I can find my own premises and get started. And yeah, it's my turn. It's my turn to give back to the sport. You know, everything boxing did for me over the years. Kept me away from all the nonsense, all the rubbish in the street. I think any sport for that matter does that. It's my turn to give back now.
Yeah, let's speak about Julian Cook, because I actually believe, I mean, I used to spar him as an amateur, right? And he was always a very, very kind sparrer. He was obviously a lot bigger than me, but he would never take liberties. He'd never hit like anything like that. Julian, as a boxer, if he had to drop down to, let's just say, light heavyweights, I believe he can go a long way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know what, I listen, super talented, salt of the earth as a person. But if Jules is watching, you're a lazy bugger. That's your problem. But you're super talented, and he can go a very, very, very far way. He's super talented. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think his humility would take him far, because he doesn't have a big head. He doesn't have this attitude about himself. Like I say, nicest guy out the ring, but he's a proper monster when he gets inside. I do believe that he could probably initially come down to light heavyweight. He won't like what I've got to say, because I think there's going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of weight that needs to be lost. I think he could even probably come down, considering his height and his frame, he could probably come down to super middles. And sure, he'll be a lot to deal with. He will be a lot to deal with, because he's got it all. It's just the discipline and dedication that needs to be worked on. But besides that, in terms of God-given talent, the guy's something else. So.
Does that frustrate you in a way, because you were a very dedicated boxer? You were always the first guy and the last guy out of the gym, you know, when you do that. And, you know, that's how you want your boxing to be.
Extremely frustrating, knowing that I was the hard worker that I was. Maybe not the most talented fighter, but what I lacked in talent, I made up for in hard work. And Julian is a complete opposite end of the scale. Super talented, but not the hardest working guy. And yeah, it's very frustrating. Times that the Oak's not on weight, and you're like, bud, how are you not on weight yet? Come on, it's like, you know, you're a day or two before the fight, and the Oak hasn't made weight yet. It's like, no, relax, I'll make it. I'm like, how do you expect me to relax? You should be down to a certain weight by now, and you're not. Nah, it's cool. I promise you was. I'll be fine. I'll make it. Yeah, so difficult to deal with in that sense, but super talented.
So going forward, now that you say that you're going to be doing a little bit of training, you're going to being a professional boxing trainer. Obviously, you'll keep your clients and so forth. You'll want to get your own premises. Is it more than just Julian Cook? Are there other guys that you got your eye on training, or is it just simply start with Julian?
No, listen. There's a couple of guys that have approached me and chatted to me, knowing that that's the route I want to go. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, as soon as I'm ready to get the gym up and started, then I think that's when obviously it'll come to the crunch, and we'll see who really. I mean, obviously, people just speak, and not everybody's always a man of their word. So I think, like I said, once I open the gym, then that's when I'll know, But listen, I think hopefully when I open, I can start working with a couple of guys and do well enough with those guys that I'm able to attract other good fighters. I think the proof's in the pudding. I think that's the way it works with any decent trainer out there, guys. I mean, when I was with Colin, when I started out with Nick was the best in the country, one of the best in the world. And when I was with Colin, I think the same goes for Colin, So I think when you're producing the champions, more champions want to come to you. So I think I would have to start producing guys first, and then from there I would attract more fighters.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly pop in a question. Someone asked, Warren, who do you rate as our top talents in SA?
Definitely. For me, the top fighter in SA currently, although he's older and he's coming towards the end of his career, most definitely Maruti Mthalani. Azinga's a top talent as well. Tulani Mbenge. The thing that I think would be really tough with Mbenge, he's just, unfortunately, that's just the way it is that worldwide the talent in the welterweight division. You're up against, unfortunately for him, he's up against guys like Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. You got top boys. But on the local scene, definitely Mbenge. I think I'd say that's about it. And listen, and lots of weights. Hex has proved himself, like I was saying earlier. He's still got a good few fights in him. And then one of my good friends, I see him like a little brother. Hayden, you'll know this. I love that little bugger to bits. But DJ Krill as well. I see that going places.
DJ's actually got a world title lined up again in his second weight division. So
yes.
He's a hard worker of notes. Do you get calls from him?
Sorry.
Are you still in contact with DJ at the moment?
Yes, no. I chat to him quite often. Yeah. So also super talented, and a hard worker. So I foresee him going places.
Rob Katz actually popped through a question. He says, when are you going to organize more white collar fights?
Listen, I have to do that. Listen, when it comes to white collar, I think I must be the worst manager in the world. Rob's been asking for a fight for ages. But the only problem that comes into play there is that his wife's going to want to murder me if I organize a white collar fight for him. So that's a problem. So I don't want any problems with Dawn. So for that reason, I've decided to step aside from organizing Rob or
Rather let someone else take the management reins on that one.
Yeah, I'll trade him with pleasure. But when it comes to the management side of things, I'm a little bit worried that Dawn might eat me overhand afterwards.
All right, Warren. Going back to your training, which trainer do you think out of all the guys that you've trained with that you will be most like? Maybe not now because you're still early days, but who do you want to sort of, I wouldn't say mimic, but who would you rather want to be like?
I think I'm going to have to say Colin, because from a personal level and his people skills, Nick also had really good people skills, but I don't think that I don't want to. I'm not slating Nick in saying this, but Nick was quite a tough, hard man, whereas Colin was a little bit softer. And for me, maybe I'm a little bit of a softer guy, but I work best with someone like Colin, and he was my friend, and not just a trainer and someone that shouts, "Yeah, where are you doing?" There were times there were times when if he knew when he needed to be stern, Colin was stern, and he got the most out of me. And I think that's the best way to work with your fighters if you have a friendship. I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Have a friendship with your fighters, and I think that way you're probably going to get the most out of your fighters that you possibly can. So, if there were any fighter, if there were any trainer that I think in South Africa or that I've been with, that I would want to be like, it would be Carl.
What did you make of Vusi Mtolo? Kind of like, you know, he's still with Colin, they're still together.
Okay, let me not forget Vusi, because that's, if there's one man. I mean, there were times when Colin was busy with. I mean, we would have 5 fighters on a tournament, and there was one man that I said, well, listen, I need someone to stay in the change with me, because I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm one of those guys. A lot of fighters don't necessarily want to admit it, but I was one of those guys that got very nervous before a fight. 30, 36, 37 fights, 30-something fights down the line. And I tell you, nah, you know what? You start getting used to it. Nah, not me. I was one of those that got nervous, and I like to have somebody in the change with me. And Vusi, in terms of his people skills, was phenomenal. Always knew exactly how to calm a guy down, get the confidence up, get you relaxed. By the time I walked in there, I thought I could take on Mike Tyson.
I mean, a lot of people have actually said that when Vusi went on his own, he took his first big charge was Rourke Knapp, at least in the media point of view, and people had heavily criticized him, particularly in the newspapers after Rourke took a loss. Do you call bullshit on that?
Yeah, I definitely call bullshit on that. Most definitely, because, well, I'll tell you what, he's gone in the corner with me. I mean, I remember us in Scotland against Josh Taylor, and you got 3,500 Scotsmen booing you that you can't even hear your entrance music, and Vusi standing behind me, whistling and tapping me on my traps, and you're like, yes, let's go. I want this. I'm going to show the Scotsman all about the South African that I am, you know. So, yeah, no, listen, I definitely call bullshit on that, because he's got really, really, really good people skills and always knew how to calm me down, relax me. And this is coming from a fighter that was probably one of the most nervous folks around. I would always get super, super nervous, and here's one of the guys that knew exactly how to calm a person down and relax me. Him and Cole, for that matter.
So do you think it's a matter of time? Do you think he's capable of producing his own world champion?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. You know what? Maybe when it comes to the administrative side of things, and, you know, again, the right fights together for his fighter, maybe he has a bit to learn. But from a coaching perspective and a trainer's perspective, so he's phenomenal.
That's the important part. So you got the 2 parts up. Now that you bring a trainer, we can discuss this. Is that it's not just about how good of a coach you are, it's how many connections you have, what you can do with those connections, and getting your guys the right opportunities at the right time.
Correct.
How are you going to approach that? I know it's very early days, but have you thought about anything like that, like sort of building up a network base?
Well, listen, for one thing, I'm very glad that I'm still very close friends with Colin, and I know, you know, Cole's always gone out of his way. I mean, the last fight, they're like, yo, we got this fight for you. I tried to go and organize some adrenaline, you know, God forbid something happens, and I couldn't get. They're like, no, sorry, mate, like, you need a script and all sorts. And first, like, I phoned my go-to guy was Cole, and I was like, hey, Cole, listen, please, I need some help here, you know, can you help a brother out? It's like, sure, no worries. I got some at the house, pop past, shoot past, had a fat chat in the afternoon. He's like, okay, cool, no, all the best. And thank God that happened, because in the second last round, Julian actually got cut, and I actually needed to administer adrenaline. And I was very thankful that I actually had it, so that it stopped the cut for the last round. And so I think, you know, in that sense, you know, having connections like Colin and the connections he's built up over the years, I definitely think that he would be someone that, I mean, and Colin's very fond of me as well, being one of his friends. I do believe that he would help me out in that sense. But yeah, I think from a coaching perspective, I think I'd be all right. I mean, I think I've been in this game. I've been an amateur since 13 years old, turned professional at 23, stayed in the pro game for 14 years. So I think I pretty much know what I'm talking about when it comes to the boxing side of things. But I do believe that I have a lot to learn when it comes to the business side of things.
Yeah, so I wanted a generic question here, Warren, and I wanted to find out which was your favorite fight of your career. And we might have covered it already, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think having lost the title to Grant and then coming back and winning both the SA title and the WBA Pan Africa title, and with it being a tough fight as well. I mean, listen, Grant was most definitely no pushover. Tough fight, both fights. Probably some of the toughest fights in my career. And yeah, it was nice to come back and get the W in the rematch. And yeah, like I say, we'll get both titles and yeah, and the win and walk away with that. I think it was the most satisfying fight of my career. Having lost the title, being able to come back and win the title back from Grant.
You look at your division nowadays; it's quite stacked again. Would you have liked to have competed in today's junior welterweight division if you could have?
Most definitely. But hey, that's not the way things work out. You know what I mean? None of us have a choice. Unfortunately, that's the way things have been for years. I mean, you always have guys trying to compare, for instance, Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. And you know we'll never know. Yes, you can look and say, "Oh no, personally, maybe I could have beaten that fight or not." But you know what? We'll never know. Yeah, it's just the times, unfortunately, and just growing up in different areas. That yeah, tough. I mean, at the moment, there's some top fighters in the junior welterweight division. But yeah, I mean, I had my turn, and I enjoyed my time when I was there. But none of us beat for the time. We wouldn't know when to say enough's enough.
Do you have any points in your career that you regret? Like, do you regret anything about your career, or is it just went according to plan?
No, you know what? There might have been one or two things early in the career. I think for decisions from I mean, unfortunately, when Nick and Rodney Berman had a fallout, I think there were 2 years. I mean, I tied into a 2-year management contract. We actually ended up fighting under Branko Milenkovic when you're fighting in all the top casinos in the country, Carnival City, then eventually moving to Emperor's Palace. And then you move from there and you're fighting at Wembley Arena on Friday night fights, you know. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I loved it and I still enjoyed it. But from a business perspective, it most definitely wasn't the smartest thing to do. But you know, eventually we got out of it. We live and we learn. And I think mistakes that I made, like that myself, I think are things that I'll be able to use with my fighters and be able to steer them in the right direction so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did.
One thing I would note is that if you never took the Josh Taylor fight, I think that would be the biggest regret of your career, because that was your chance to go overseas and really try something different. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, most definitely. You know what? I could have played the safe route and, you know, it's stayed in South Africa and continued beating South African fighters and, you know, being on top of the game locally. But, you know, I mean, you know, sometimes there's bigger fish to fry, and, you know, the greater the risk, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. You know, had I beat someone like Josh Taylor, I mean, it would open up a world of doors for me. But, you know, it didn't work that way, and so be it. I lost against a better fighter, and look where the Oak is today, and at least I can say that I shared the ring with the best in the world.
I 100% agree with that. What I want to do now, Warren, is I want to let the people that have been here throughout the whole chat have an opportunity to ask their questions, because I know it's one of the best parts of the interview, some of the fan questions that come through. It's some of the craziest questions you're probably going to answer.
Sure.
So, guys, in the comments, if you want to throw any questions towards Warren Joubert, I know if you've been waiting, now is the chance to do so. So, yeah. And in the meantime, if there's no question, we're waiting for questions, I'll keep it going. Warren, who's the best amateur you ever trained with?
That's a tough one. Probably Hekki Butler. There were several boys. A real waste of talents that, I mean, I don't mean to be ugly in saying this, but There was a youngster by the name of Johnny Kuhn. There are several guys. Another mate of mine, Quinton Erasmus, that everybody knew him as Rassi. Turned professional, had 6 pro fights, entered his pro career, went under the alias of Mark White. He's like, Joubert, you know what I'm going to call myself? I said, like, I don't know. Why? No, Mark White. Do you know what? I said, what, the White Mark Tyson? How do you know? So, okay, Mark White. And then, anyway, I mean, super talented amateur, 189 amateur fights, only 7 losses. And then turned professional, and I think just burnt himself in the amateur ranks and just wasn't interested in the sport anymore, in the pros, and just lost the dedication and discipline for the sport and stopped boxing. So, listen, there was a bunch of talented guys that I was alongside. Tony Letheria, Colin trained him for a while. Also didn't persevere in the pro ranks. Listen, the Boyson's Boxing Club, we were most definitely the most prestigious, best amateur boxing gym in the country, without a doubt.
I'm going to put a few of the questions together. So there's about 4 questions that are very similar, so I'm going to put it together. What area is your gym going to open? When is it going to open? And which fighters are you managing? That's basically what they asked.
Okay, we can't jump the gun. There's no fighters that I'm managing yet. But I'm probably looking at, Linksfield, Sanderwood, somewhere in that area, because I do have, obviously I work as a personal trainer as well. So initially, from a business perspective, I think it would be smart to open an area where I have an existing customer base. So until you start producing champions and they start paying the bills for you. But so I'm looking Sanderwood, not Glen Hazel, Linksfield, somewhere that side, So the northeastern suburbs of Joburg. And then I've obviously just moved forward from there. It's also, I think, that way it's also very central for everyone. So you've got guys from all around Joburg that are able to come to you.
So you're literally halfway between the Durant's gym and the Hot Box gym, literally somewhere around there.
That's cool. At least that way we know we've got lots of sparring.
That's true. A question from Rob Katz in the comment section saying, well, Warren, you didn't come from a boxing family. You came from your uncle was a footballer. How did you get involved in the sport of boxing?
So my uncle and my father were both pro footballers. My uncle Henny actually captained Highlands. My father also played for Highlands. And what happened is I played Southern Transvaal football when I was younger. And I landed up going down to the Boyson's Boxing Club, being a little guy. I think it was more a self-defense thing initially. And then, before we knew it, Nicky Ness and them were like, no, listen, tell him my father, we've got to fight for him this weekend. Oh, no, he can't fight. Oh, no, he's been sick. Oh, no, we're going away. There was always a ton of excuses. I mean, from 13 years old when I first started as an amateur up until 18 years old, I only had 10 amateur fights. And then from 18 to 23, I got another 30 amateur fights. And once my father gave me the choice, it's like, boy, go ahead now. If that's what you do and you enjoy it, then so be it. I mean, I think my mom and my dad had a lot of grey hairs from my boxing career, to be honest with you. But went down to the amateur boxing club, went to Boyson's, and just loved the sport, loved the people, best people in the world, the boxing people. And I think I think more than anything, what caused me to fall in love with the sport was the boxing people, best people in the world. And from then I just got into it, noticed that I had some talent in the amateur ranks, and then decided to give the professional ranks a go. And I mean, 14 years in the pro game.
I see Marco Louis, boxing manager of Rocknap, is saying the South is in your blood forever. Another one saying proud blood of the South.
Yeah, listen, I mean, obviously, I'm a Southern boy through and through, but the thing is, I mean, there's good oaks, there's good and bad in everyone. I mean, unfortunately, there are some guys in the South that tarnish the name of the South for all of us. But there's good people as well. But I suppose that goes for anywhere, So a lot of people, I think there's a lot of oaks that are scared to come to the South. Those are a rough bunch of oaks, But in general, we've got a good bunch of guys here that good, humble, down to earth people.
Here's one that hasn't been asked yet. Your favorite venue that you fought at?
Yeah, I think I'd probably have to say Empress Palace. Empress Palace. I mean, yeah, eventually at a time I became the home kid there, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it is as they advertise it, it is the boxing mecca of boxing in South Africa. So yeah, I think once a local guy makes it to Empress Palace, it's like kind of like you've made it on the local scene.
Yeah, so yeah, Jade Crum just asked a question, but we covered it earlier in the interview, Jade, where Julian Cook is boxing with Warren, and they had a fight there. And Julian Cook, I'm assuming, is still fighting. He's only had 2 fights in, I think, a 3-year career.
Yeah,
So
so he had a little bit of a layoff. Obviously, there were some business decisions that he needed to make. I was approached not too long ago. We were looking at a fight with one of the boys from the Smiths gym. I don't want to go too much into detail because hopefully in time we could get the fight again. And unfortunately, Julian had business commitments, but hopefully in time we could possibly get that fight going again. Like I said, I don't want to say too much, but
yeah.
yeah, if it happens. If it materializes, then everyone will know what I'm talking about. Everyone that's watching, at least, will know what I'm talking about.
Julian's quite a character as well. I mean, on social media, he says, "Okay, you know what? I'll do boxing. I'll do bare knuckle brawling." What do you think about that?
Yeah, listen. If he's serious and he really wants to do boxing, then there's no bare knuckle brawling. That's for sure. You save your hands. These are your tools. These are your tools, and you know what? I had this little saying that always say to me, guys. Often it's stupid as youngsters. Hey, but what happens if you have to roll this oak or that oak in the street? I said, listen, mate. I said this is what makes me money, and it's about making money. At the end of the day, this is business, and if you're going to get into boxing as a business, then forget about all the rest of that crap.
Like everyone in the comment section, everyone's saying, well, Julian would look good as a super middleweight or a light heavyweight at the very least. And I agree. I agree with them. Julian's highly talented.
Yeah,
What is this,
definitely. I'd say initially because obviously, I mean, initially the weight cut he's been carrying. You got to understand he's been carrying that weight for some time. So you don't want to go too extravagant on the weight cut. Let him slowly get into it, allow homeostasis to take its place, and slowly bring the weight down. I'd say initially cut down to light heavies, give him a few fights there, and then eventually bring him down to super middle. I think super middle would suit him best.
We got an official invitation to come to Durban to have a bunny chow by Coach Big T. Says anytime.
Thanks, Trev. I'll definitely take you up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, good guys. Warren, thank you for coming today. I really enjoyed today's interview. All the questions that popped through. I've seen one more from Rob Katz, maybe the best, and it's more of a statement, the best boxing personal trainer out there by far. But Warren,
thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Do you have anything you want to leave us with?
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was most enjoyable. Always nice chatting to you, brother.